Okay, so I've been riding around on a stock OEM Indian seat for my Indian Scout Bobber 20. And it's really uncomfortable for anything over about a 30-minute ride. So I was able to pick up a very slightly used Corbin seat for my bobber, and it has an optional backrest. So let's go get that thing installed and see what we think. Okie Twister 66. Stay tuned. Okay, here we are today in the Okie Twister 66 garage, and we're going to be replacing the stock seat for a 2021 Scout Bobber 20. We're going to exchange this seat and with a Corbin seat that has a backrest. I'm not quite sure if I want the backrest or not. I don't know. Never really considered it, but it came with the seat. I picked it up used here from a local guy on Facebook. Very pleased with the deal. So I'm very excited to get this seat on, try it out, and see if it's as good as people say they are. This stock seat, it could be better. So anyway, let's get started. It's very easy to remove the stock seat. Basically, you just take hold of the front right here. It's just held on by a little post, and you just give it a quick pop, and then pull it just a little bit forward. Be careful not to scratch your gas tank, and be careful with your fender. So there's the stock seat, the bottom side of it. But anyway, it's nice looking. It's just not the greatest on longer rides. So let's go over this and we'll see about installation. Okay, you'll notice this little doodad right here. This is a little post that actually that's what you popped off. It fastens here with I'm using a 1/2 inch deep socket to fit on these on this bolt. So you just kind of break this loose. I already broke this loose. So you just take this off. You're not going to need this, but keep it with your original seat. Very important that you do that, and we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. So very, very simple. There's what it looks like. First thing you do. Now the next thing we want to do is disconnect the negative battery. It's always a good idea when working on any of this stuff down here. You need to disconnect this cable. If you should short anything out, boy, it could lead to a real problem. It could mess up, the electronics in your bike. It could even start a fire. So a couple of things we need to do here. So what I'm using is let's see, I think it's a 13 millimeter, no, I'm sorry, a 10 millimeter deep, and I use an extension that way I could just have easier access to it. So it's right here. So just take that out. Be careful that you don't drop this bolt, okay? It may lodge itself somewhere down in there that is very difficult to retrieve. It might be good if you have like one of those long magnets, just in case, that you could, you know, if you can at least maybe see it or reach around, you can poke that magnet down there and retrieve it should you drop it. So notice you've got these exposed wires. I'm going to recommend, it's probably a little overkill and I don't think I've ever seen anybody do it, but I like to just be a little bit more careful than some on some of these things. I really don't want to short out my bike and make a mess of it, so I'm going to wrap these in some electrical tape. It's just temporary and it's just enough so we can just protect it and, you know, keep any potential, you know, we don't want that thing to short. So let's wrap that up with some electrical tape. Okay, you can see here I've wrapped this up with some electrical tape. It's not pretty, it's not perfect, but it'll help us as some protection, you know, to keep things from touching. So I just kind of bend it out of the way. Now you're going to find you've got a bunch of these other wires down here that you're going to have to push down to make room. Oh, and by the way, here's the magnet tool that I was talking about. This is the magnet. It's got a nice little handle and it's telescopic, so very handy. So anyway, so what you're looking for is, I hope you can see it from this angle, but right here there's an area. There's no bolt in there. It looks like something's missing, but that is the location where you're going to use to mount the bracket that Corbin sends you with the seat to mount the seat. It's kind of reversed the way it mounts, because with the original seat you've got these two tongues on the bottom of the seat that kind of stick in underneath this fender, and then this post was here, and then it mounts down on that post right here. The Corbin seat is a little bit reverse. It's got a tongue that slips under here, and the bracket that they send, it mounts to this location. It's got a little spacer on there, and it's got a post right here that mounts into the seat. So let's take a look at that. Okay, here is the bracket that I have for this bobber. It's specific to this bike. Now, interesting story about the guy that I bought the seat from. Great guy. Seat is magnificent. It's only about a year old. So we got, you know, the bracket that he had, but this was not it. The bracket that he had was for a different year Scout, which was not such a big deal, but it was not a bobber. So there is a difference. So if you do happen to buy a seat used, if you don't know the bracket, whether it fits or not, make sure you have one for a bobber. So I didn't know that until I got the seat home and I looked at the bracket and I was like, there's no way this is going to work. So I made a quick phone call to Corbin, and they were able to put me, you know, through right away to this guy who was very helpful. I sent him a couple of pictures by text, and he was like, yeah, you've got the wrong bracket, so let's send you the right one. It was 25 bucks with $5 shipping. It took about 10 days to get here, but I was really glad that it did. But this is what they sent, and they sent some very good detailed instructions. So I highly recommend that if you don't have the right bracket, or if you have a question, give Corbin a call. Have your phone handy that you can text them a couple of pictures, and they're happy to walk you through that. Great service from these guys. So basically what they sent was a bolt, a washer, a spacer, and the bracket. Okay, so this is the basic orientation of how we're going to mount this to the bike. You've got the spacer, you've got the bolt that runs through all of it. So basically the spacer, then the bracket, then the washer, and of course the head of the bolt. So and what we're going to be using, this was a perfect size for me. Notice that we've got the negative out of the way. This is just a little quarter-inch drive deep socket. It's a 1/2 inch. So that's what we're going to use. So I want to get it started by hand. And oops, I've got that little tape there to keep from damaging. So there we go. Just get it kind of started by hand. Now ultimately, you'll want to position this perpendicular to the plane of the bike. So just kind of eyeball it. What I recommend is don't snug it down all the way or tighten it down all the way. Just kind of get it a little bit snug, and you can do a test fit and see how that works. So we're going to tighten this up a little bit. Now remember, try not to touch anything in here. Just precautions. Just going to just get this a little bit snug. Not there yet. Okay. All right, so just a little bit snug. Not going to crank it down all the way. And we're going to do a test fit. So I'm going to push these wires back down. Get them out of the way from the seat. They're clear of anything. So we're just going to do a little test fit. Before we can do a test fit with the assembled seat, we first got to assemble it. So here's the backrest. It's got this post that goes down into the back of the seat. It's got a neat Velcro thing here to kind of make everything neat and tidy. And then this right here is the location where this screw, bolt, whatever you want to call it, it will go through. So we've got to assemble this first. Now what I'm using, of course, is the provided bolt from Corbin seats, you know, with this optional backrest. And I'm using a number 4 hex thing. So we're gonna, yeah. So basically I put this flap over to the side, and we're gonna put the main flap, the Velcro's shut. I'm gonna slide this down into the back of the seat. You can see where it lines up perfectly. We'll start it by hand, get it as tight as we can by hand. Finish it right there, and we're going to make sure it's just really nice and snug. Once again, we don't want to strip anything, but we want to make it nice and tight. There is vibration. There you have it. Now, let's go do a test fit on the bike and see if we're done. Now that we have our seat and backrest assembled together, let's do a quick test fit. So what we want to do is this tongue right here will need to slide up into this location. And then this hole right here in the bottom of the little seat plate, that's what's going to mount onto that post. Boy, that was easy. It just went right in. So now this seat is locked. You notice I can't, it's secure there. It's secure here from the front where the lip went in and on the post. Wow, this is done. Except for we still need to bolt everything down, tighten it up, and that way we're good. We know the positioning of the bracket is correct. So we're ready to remove it and do a quick nut and bolt on everything, and then we're ready to go. Now this seat does not just pop off like the stock seat did. This is a very expensive seat, very desirable, and you know, a lot of people may want to steal this seat. So you might ask yourself, well, how do I get the seat off? Well, Corbin seats have locks and keys. Can't see it, it's on this other side, but basically you just slip the key in, give it a little twist, it releases the latch on the bottom, and the seat's loose. So now I'm going to lift up and then gently pull it backwards to get the tongue out of the front. Just trying to be very careful not to scratch paint. So yeah, easy as that. So next thing we need to do, we're going to tighten this down. We know it's in a good position, so let's lock that thing down pretty tight. And then we'll connect the ground back and then put the seat on, and then we're ready to ride. Okay, so we're going to use the 1/2 inch deep socket on my 1/4 inch drive ratchet, and we're just going to snug this thing down. Well, if not snug, we're going to tighten it. So put some good leverage in it, but don't strip it. Just really tight. Remember, that's your seat. You don't want to be flying off with that thing. So that's really good and tight. That's going to work just fine. Next thing we'll do, and the last, as far as down here, we're going to strip this electrical tape off here, put it back ground, and then we can put the seat on. As you can see, I've stripped all of the electrical tape from the 2 wires that were attaching to the ground. I've hand started the bolt that goes through both of those wires and into the frame, and we're going to tighten those down. Now once again, we've got my 10 millimeter deep with a little short extension on my favorite ratchet. So we're just going to tighten that thing up. Now this is incredibly important to make sure this is really tight. I've seen on posts and read articles, spoken to other riders, a lot of electrical problems with their bikes can be traced back to a simple loose ground. So make sure that you get your ground wire really good and tight. Now don't strip anything out, but make sure that sucker's tight, because there is vibration sometimes you need to worry about, and so that's pretty good right there. I'm confident that is nice and tight. So now we're ready to put the seat on and roll. So here we are, moment of truth. We've got the post solid and it's in position because we test fitted it. We've got the ground back in place, nice and tight, so we shouldn't have any electrical problems. So we're going to angle this down, slip the tongue under the deal, just kind of wiggle it around. We'll find the sweet spot. Give it a little push down. I think it's in place. Give it a little, yep. And there we go. Corbin seat and backrest installed. Now it's time to have some fun and see if it was really worth it. So we just installed the Corbin seat and the backrest. My first thought, oh my God, what a difference. And it's not just a difference with the comfort on my butt, but I was totally unprepared for how much I was going to like this backrest. So as far as the seat, it feels like you're sitting in it rather than on it, like the stock seat. So it is just way comfortable. And as far as the backrest is concerned, wow, you know, I just feel like I'm in better control of the bike, especially when you twist the throttle and give it some gas. I mean, this thing can get away from you if you're not careful, so it's just more comfortable. One thing that comes to mind, the first time I strapped myself into a race car and I had a 5-point harness. Now, something like that, you're strapped down really tight. You cannot move. You know, full racing seat, you know, proper. This is a bumpy road. Be good one to test this seat. But the difference I'm talking about is night and day in that when you're taking hard turns, and I did road racing, so, you know, hard turns left, hard turns right. And with just a stock, you know, street car seat belt, it doesn't hold you in a seat. You naturally go slower because you just can't comfortably control the vehicle. You put that harness on in a race car, man, you'll take turns way faster than you ever thought you would, and you really that you will in a street car with a standard seatbelt. So that's the difference. It's a similar night and day type feel. So, man, I'm loving this seat, and I'm loving this backrest. I think I'm going to keep this backrest on there. The cool thing is it's detachable. Anytime I want to strip it down to get back to its just full bobber roots, I can do that with no problem. So the question is, was it worth the money? Was it worth the time to install? Absolutely yes on both of those. Highly recommend. Would do it again in a heartbeat. So that's my report. Okie Twister 66 signing off. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like, make a comment, and subscribe. I got some more cool stuff coming up. I think my next mod is going to be a detachable factory windscreen and fairing. So subscribe and stay tuned. Ride safe, 2 wheels down.